My father seems stoic from an outside perspective. He smiles and laughs at home, but when our black lab Shadow was put down, he withdrew even more. Shadow had been in my life for as long as I can remember. Getting him was a bit of an accident. However, he quickly became a huge part of our family, in spite of the way he came to us. While he was a family dog, Shadow was closest to my father. He was the one who had to decide to put him down. When summer came around, my father was not his usual happy-go-lucky self at the cottage, his favorite place in the world. We all noticed how quiet it was without Shadow, but it hit him hardest. My mother, sister, and I all knew it. That Christmas, my sister and I gave him a homemade coupon to pick out a dog when he was ready. Late the next year, he briefly mentioned to my mother that he had started to look at puppies online. She took over from there, and we found Simon within the hour. He was a yellow lab mix, just what my father had wanted. He was a rescue dog. His pregnant mother had been found on the side of the road, and he was part of the resulting litter. We were told the transport would be up from North Carolina, and we could pick him up in a couple of weeks. The drive seemed to stretch on forever. My sister and I exchanged excited glances frequently, and my mother was smiling the whole way. My father was the only one not giddy with anticipation, instead driving without expression. We arrived in what seemed to be the right place with a few minutes to spare. I peered out the window eagerly and spotted a sign. We were at a rest stop in Kittery, Maine. My mother asked my father to go into the rest stop and to inquire about the arrival of 32 dogs, Simon being one of them. I decided to go with him in the hopes of catching a glimpse of the van. The two older men at the desk were quite nice and told us that we would find Mary's dogs in the back parking lot. We returned to the car and relayed this information to my mother and sister. As we reached the back parking lot, the kennel transport came into view and excited barks and yipping were audible. There was an introduction from the woman who ran the program, and we were instructed on the care of a new dog. By the time we went to the table to pick up the supplies provided and learned about our puppy specifically, we were all bored to tears. The excitement had drained from us, but it was quickly renewed when the woman walked up to the van, opened the doors, and disappeared inside. The large group that had formed to pick up new family members moved as one to crowd the entrance expectantly. My sister and I looked to my father. He still wasn't smiling, not even a twitch at the corners of his mouth. He had the camera at the ready, completely intending for us to retrieve the puppy. Dog after dog was carried out and given to its new owner, but Peace and my father had shown no change. He was as stone-faced as ever. We began to walk forward as the woman called for the owners of Simon's litter mates. I looked at my father, and once again, there was still no hint of a smile, no excitement in his eyes. In stark contrast, the rest of us were almost bouncing with anticipation. This would be the first time we were going to see him. The woman emerged with a little bundle of yellow fur, the runt, Simon. My father's face lit up as he flung his arm back, almost tossing the camera to me. He practically ran up to the van and took Simon in his arms. I started to take pictures, lots of them. He was grinning from ear to ear. This was one of the most expressive and happy moments I've ever seen from my father. This little puppy, in seconds, helped him through pain that had been there for over a year. As we watched Simon run with his siblings for a final time and see snow for the first, there was a smile that didn't leave any of our faces. Eventually we had to get in the car, but we were one member heavier. He slept most of the way home, but knowing what was in store for him put us all in a great mood. Simon slept between my sister and me. Whenever he moved, we took a picture and had our mother turn around and look. After a short 2 hours in the car, we arrived home. We started to walk him into the house. The second Simon walked in, the cats scattered. They were accustomed to having the house to themselves. One cat remained on the lower level, Cato. He's a huge 20-pound beast. Cato just sat on a shelf, glaring down at this new creature we had brought into his house. We continued through and brought Simon to the backyard. Cato was leering through a window, but no one paid him any attention. Everyone took turns with his leash, walking him and letting him acclimate. When we brought him back into the house, my sister and I introduced him to his new toys, bed, and bowls. This was over a year ago, but it still stands out in my mind. I think it's so clear because of the immediate, dramatic effect Simon had on my father. Even though the puppy grew to be a mama's boy, his presence has changed something in each of us. He's given my mother a surrogate child, while my sister is away at college. He's given my sister a more involved experience with animals other than cats. He's given me someone to run around and wrestle with. He's given my father something a little less concrete. There's just something different in his face that I can't quite put my finger on. I'm sure he still misses Shadow, but when someone mentions him, my father doesn't react quite as badly as he used to. His face used to fall and he'd get very quiet for a while, but now he joins in the conversation. It's really amazing how therapeutic animals are naturally. They can help us through tough times and love us unconditionally.